Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today and learning a little bit more about using GL Studio for developing content for iDevices. The aspect that we're not really going to touch on today is how you actually build the content with GL Studio. So what I'd like to point you to is, if you're curious about how you would actually build the geometry and content within GL Studio, is to swing by our website after we're done here today and go to DiSTI.com/videos and look up the page on getting started with GL Studio, and we'll walk you through the elements for producing content. We do wig interface, importing content from Photoshop, setting up your properties and the like, and then generating the code out of the tool. So I definitely encourage you to swing by there. So with what we're introducing here today, we have the iDevice runtime library. And along with the runtime library that will be available, we're also going to make available a variety of other enabling content. So what we're including with the runtime is obviously the runtime library binaries that are built for the iDevices. And we'll be shipping out versions that support both OpenGL ES 1.1, which gets you to all the flavors of the iPods and the iPads, regardless of what generation they are. And then if you want to go with OpenGL ES 2.0, that would get you to currently the Gen 3 and better environment. And what our library enables is, at that point, is the ability for users to add their own user-defined shaders to the environment. Would also be accessible through ES 2.0. So you'll have a little bit of flexibility in which area you choose. We're also going to include an Xcode GL Studio project wizard for setting up your project on the Mac. Andy will be talking about that in a little bit, as well as an installation guide. And this is kind of an optional step if you want to have the GL Studio developer running on a Mac. This is a way in which you can configure your system to install VirtualBox to get that going. And in addition to that, we're also planning on offering up a GL Studio iDevice emulator for Windows. So when you generate your GL Studio content, you can actually preview it on the PC within the little GL Studio iDevice emulator, so you can make sure that the touchscreen is interacting the way that you're expecting it to, and that the accelerometers for how you're pitching and rolling the iPod will translate into the updates on your device. And then last but not least, we're also going to have a separate iDevice runtime end user license agreement, which is going to allow users that are deploying GL Studio content produced for the iDevices to be deployed royalty-free. And we're doing that for early adopters of the tools, so they can get their content out there on the App Store and start generating revenue themselves. So access to this. But we have a few different categories of folks that we've kind of envisioned so far. You're essentially going to have access to the iDevice runtime library, and what's included on the side there is going to be pretty much included for early adopters. So if you're currently a GL Studio user and you have the safety critical embedded C++ code generator and you're under support maintenance, then this iDevice runtime library is going to be available for you at no extra charge to download and get going with. If you're a current GL Studio user and you're using our standard C++ or Java code generator, if you would like to get access to this, just purchase the safety critical embedded C++ code generator, and you will have access to the runtime library as well. And for all the folks that aren't using GL Studio yet, well, if you become a GL Studio customer and you purchase the toolkit with the safety critical code generator with support maintenance, you'll also get access to the iDevice runtime library for producing content for that material. So this is pretty much the area where I'm going to turn it over to Andy for talking to some of these slides, and then switching over to his desktop, and he'll share his environment there with you. He's going to go and talk about some of these development steps here. I'd like to remind you, if you've had any questions come up, feel free to type those into the into the environment, and we can see what we can do for you on getting those answered by the end of the presentation. So Andy, you have the floor, and I will pass the presentation over to you when you get to your point.
All right, Scott, thank you. So as Scott mentioned, we're going to be going over a live demonstration of developing safety-critical content through GL Studio to be deployed on iDevices. Before we actually get to that, we're going to kind of talk about the development steps, and then you're going to kind of see me lead you through a few of them. First, steps 1 and 2, joining the Apple Developer Network and provisioning the iDevices. This is all done on Apple's side. You're going to register as an App Store developer, and then go ahead and get your logins, provision your devices. Once you've done that, you've also get the ability to download Xcode and the iPhone SDK, which are the two things you're going to need to actually be able to compile applications for the iPhone and iPad. The next step is actually optional, setting up our virtual machine. I've already set up a virtual machine here on my Macintosh for the purpose of keeping my compiling and my generating on the same machine. The optional step here instead is to just create a shared folder that's networked between a Mac and a Windows machine, or you can even just pass information back and forth between them. GL Studio does not need to know what it's generating code for. It's completely agnostic to the actual operating system, as Scott mentioned earlier. The next step will be to actually install GL Studio on that Windows or Linux box along with the safety-critical code generator. And then we can install the safety-critical C++ runtime libraries for iDevices on our Mac. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us, of course, the runtime libraries, and it will give us a collection of Xcode project wizards that we can use to get up and running from the ground really quickly. And I'll kind of be showing you exactly what that entails in just a moment. After that, we go back and we develop our GL Studio content. We generate our safety-critical C++ source code from GL Studio from our development machine, whether it be our Linux machine, our Windows machine, or any one of the virtual devices. After we've developed our source code, we can then compile it back in Xcode, and then we can deploy the app. We can either deploy our app to the iPhone simulator or our actual iDevice for testing, and I'm going to actually show you both. So at this point, it's going to be time for our live demonstration. Just a second. I'm going to go ahead and take control of GoToMeeting and show my screen. So now we're seeing the view of my Mac. Currently, I have Xcode up and running. At this point, we've already assumed that we've got Xcode installed, the iPhone SDK installed, and I've also installed the safety-critical runtimes for iDevices. So what I could do here is actually go to Create New Xcode Project, and we'll see inside of our user templates, we already have a GL Studio safety-critical for iDevices section. At this point, we can choose whether or not we want to develop an OpenGL ES 1.1 application, which will give us the broadest user base because any iDevice can support this, or our GL Studio safety-critical OpenGL ES 2.0 for our generations 3 and on. Once we've chosen which device we want to target, or I'm sorry, which OpenGL ES implementation we want to target, then we choose our product, whether it be iPhone or iPad. Once we've done this, we just apply a name for the application, a location for the project, and then we're off and running. I'm going to go ahead and go to a previously built project. Like we said, GL Studio design, the actual GL Studio creation of the objects is a little bit beyond the scope of this presentation. However, we do have a video on our website which shows the basics of developing for GL Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my currently generated project. Now, at this point, I'm actually missing a few files. We see them listed in red on our Xcode screen. These are the files that we have yet to generate from GL Studio. So I'm going to kind of talk through that process right now. As I mentioned, we've already created a virtual machine on this box. I'm running Ubuntu 10.04 in this case. And as soon as it comes up, we're going to go ahead and just load up GL Studio. I'm going to do that through the terminal. And while I'm loading it up, one other thing we've done here is we've created a shared folder between our Mac and our Linux virtual machine. The reason for this is that I can go ahead and generate code from my actual machine here, my Linux machine here, and have it already taken over to the Mac side, so the Mac will actually pick it up right away, so we don't have the additional step of copying source files over to our project. So I'll go ahead and run GL Studio. I'll go ahead and pass it the name of our design file. And we'll go ahead and see our GL Studio show up. It will load up our demo, and we see the demo on the screen. So as we said, we've already completed this demo, but the source code has not yet been generated, so we'll go ahead and do that now. We go to our safety critical C++, and we simply hit generate. And it's going to go through, generate our source code. And once we've done that, I'll go ahead and minimize our virtual machine. And we'll actually go back to Xcode. And we see that all those missing source files have now been filled in. They're now present on the machine. So we'll go ahead and start by developing, targeting the iPhone simulator. I've chosen the simulator release. We'll go ahead and just build and run. And then in a few moments, the application will compile, link, and then the iPhone simulator will open. And we'll be able to see our application running on our virtual iPhone simulator. So this is nice. We've got this thing running. I'm going to go ahead and close out and then go right back into it so that we get out of the debugger. Now, in addition to, of course, deploying to our virtual iPhone, we can actually deploy to an actual device. Let me switch over to iPhone device 3.2. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a webcam video preview window. So as soon as everything gets clear, what we're going to be looking at is a webcam view of an iPad that's running at my desk right here. This time, I'm going ahead to target a device in release mode. And I'll simply go to build and run. And then what we're going to see is a couple things happen inside of our screen. We're going to compile, link our application. It's going to get sent over to the iPad. We'll actually be able to see the icon flash onto the iPad for a split second. And then it blinks away. We're still waiting for it to catch up. I apologize. It blinks away, and then we'll actually be able to see the application running through our webcam. I apologize for the latency of this, by the way. Transmitting through a webcam, it's going at 20 frames a second, and we've got significant lag here. But now we can see the two up and running simultaneously. Everything that we can do inside of the simulator, of course, we can also do on the live device. Clicking, for example, on our turbine here that's shown up red will give me a little pop-up window just indicating an alert message. And we'll be able to see that if I reach over and click the turbine 1, we'll see the same message over here on the actual device as well. So pretty much you're unrestricted as far as developing applications for the iDevices. Anything that you can do in safety critical C++ for GL Studio, you can also do for an iDevice as well.